It was not just a pure art context, but also a feminist context. And I kind of feel like I have mixed those two.
How would you distinguish these two?
I distinguish the way that when it's porn, then it becomes way more explicit. That's like my own categorization of these two, that erotica for me is softer in a way, and pornography is like, close-ups of genitals and more hardcore fucking.
Mm-hmm.
So, and in my photography, that's I have been more, kept distance to my model somehow. So that's, I guess, the difference between these close-ups and having like this distance.
What's the kind of porn you want to do?
I want to continue adding some kind of artistic layers to it, so it has a certain aesthetic, something that I find aesthetic nice to look at. Basically what I already started doing, that is something I want to continue. Like, it's very important for me that I work with a camera that I like. I use a certain lens that also captures some kind of intimacy in what I think is a beautiful way. And I feel like it's not something I feel. I think my purpose is to add some kind of aesthetics to porn that often has this kind of cold surface, just a cheap JVC camera or something some kind of quality.
How do you see your position in the alternative porn world?
God, that is so hard to say. Especially now, because I think it's changing. There is more. I would say some years ago, the aesthetics of DIY porn. I mean, I'm also DIY, but there was like a certain aesthetic that when you hear the word DIY, you're thinking, okay, there are some aesthetic elements that are then not included there because it's something that is easily made. You pick up your camera, I film myself by masturbating or having sex, like this kind of, where that fine art element was not important or not included. And I think now more and more queer pornographers or feminist pornographers are including that. Where I think I've only been doing this I filmed my first one 4 years ago, so it's still so new. But then it was kind of a surprise within this queer porn element, because suddenly now there's this beautiful imagery, and I heard from several. I mean, it's primarily lesbians who watch my films, so lesbians saying that this is what we were waiting for, some kind of beauty. I've been a guest at the porn festival so many years, and some years I was also a protagonist, being in others' porn films. So I've also been in front of the camera, and so I've just watched so much. And at first, it was because I was a little provoked by the lesbian selection. I mean, this is also mainly why I started doing photography, that I was tired of the way female sexuality was portrayed, like this, soft and tender, and I was lacking this aggression and more in your face. So that's also what I wanted to do through my photography, and basically also through pornography, that it's very important to say that from the States there was already a clear, there are porn filmmakers, Chinese Houston and Goodyn Green, they have made aggressive lesbian porn for several years, so of course it did exist, but there was still, I felt by a lot of the stuff I watched at the porn festival, I still had this general idea that it was just too soft. It was too much keeping the panties on, and I got so provoked by that because I was bored and I didn't want to see that. So that's why I decided, okay, I cannot sit here year after year and be annoyed. I have to try to make what I would like to watch. So that's basically how it started. And then I realized that it's such an amazing community and almost like a family of porn filmmakers. So now it's more becoming like, what are you doing this year? What are you doing this? Like, so excited to see what the others have made and then also make something myself. So now it's not that I have that urge to change something, but more to be part of an already existing community.
So you find like a community which is based on solidarity and not so much a competition.
Totally. I mean, that is actually so interesting, because within photography there is so much competition. I mean, in most art, I guess, many places, but I feel in this porn community, I haven't felt it. No competition, but a lot of support, and this is also why every year at the festival it's just such a nice atmosphere, a nice feeling, because everyone is like excited about what basically your friends or colleagues have been working on, what they're going to present, and that's wonderful. I think.
You see the same people like in the same productions.
Yeah, exactly. This is why they have like a Berlin short, because there's so much being made, and everyone help each other out. You know that the people who have been in my films have been in so many other films. I've been in their films, and we're helping each other out. Yeah.
I've had the other way around too. I started with getting to know people in porn who were kind of like very competitive and did not want to give information or how you could do things, and so this is, for me, this is a new perspective actually.
Yeah.
To find people who are more.
I think maybe it's because there's not so much money involved yet.
Yeah, that's true.
I think the second money comes in, then suddenly you get more greedy. You're like, fuck, and that still hasn't happened, at least to me, not to me, and I also don't think to many of the others. It's still like, it's not something we can reach on.
It makes a difference knowing that the photographer is a man or a woman. Even if you put like the same gaze at the person, it will make a difference if the audience would know who did this work.
Yeah.
Would you say the same when it comes to pornographic works?
Definitely. I mean that I can't say that from a general perspective. That's my personal opinion, that I would definitely react differently when I know who shot it. And I think maybe even more so in pornography, because that's also like more women are becoming photographers, but there's still like a huge difference between how many women are actually doing pornography, and so there I think I would be even more excited if I find out that it's also a female director. My audience are mostly cis women, identified lesbian, and I think they wouldn't even go watch it if it was a male pornographer, because of the cliches of lesbian porn and how we grew up knowing how lesbian porn is. And I think I mean, if you might have to repeat your question, but if that is what you were aiming at, I think it would be perceived completely different if it was a male pornographer who did it. Because of the audience. Maybe if it was a straight male audience, they wouldn't think there's a difference between. I don't know. I mean, I have also straight men coming to me and being happy and saying, "Oh, this is so wonderful to finally see real, authentic lesbian sex," because they are as annoyed by it and troubled by it, that this fake female or lesbian sexuality that is being portrayed in mainstream porn. So as many men like also need this change as women.
Do you think it makes a difference for the work? Like if you would try to take on the same gaze at a person, do you think the outcome would be differently? If like a straight man, gay man, take like these different subjects of the work, do you think it would come out differently even if they would try to use the same? Is it like a matter of context, knowing who did it, so I perceive the artwork differently? Or do you think it's really like, could also be a matter of like the artwork coming out differently? You know what?
Yeah, but this is also a little bit with that photo series I did called Between Seas, where exactly I feel like no, I think a male pornographer could do possibly the exact same, but because if he would be a cis man, then there is just a certain critique, and there is this distance that people would automatically not be as happy as if it was a trans person or a cis lesbian woman who had done it.
Maybe.
So then you can say, okay, that's kind of not fair, because if he really is aiming to change this and also to create authentic lesbian sex, then he should also have the chance and being recognized as much as if it was a cis lesbian. But I think that it's just because it's too soon. It's gonna take longer before. I mean, there is still too much lesbian porn being made by heterosexual men for lesbians or feminists in general to say, oh yeah, cool, we like your movie as much as if anyone else made it. I think it's a lot. It's not just the aesthetic. It's not. I kind of wanna think that it's also that I look at female sexuality differently because I am one, or I. But I'm not sure. I can't. I think from an aesthetic point, of course, someone who would see my work, who knows how to use a camera, someone would be like, I can do exactly the same. Of course.
You get questions that you wouldn't bother if people stopped asking you?
I mean, now it's not that I'm doing an interview every week, so I don't mind. I can still handle having the same questions, and I think actually it's also important because my answers might change. Like what we talked about before, that it's interesting how my perspective changed now to why I started doing it and why I'm continuing doing it. So it's actually maybe good to get the same questions every now and then.
So you're not even confronted with what you said, what annoyed you the most in the beginning, and was kind of like an impulse to start the work, like being confronted in the questions or comments by other people with like assumptions of like a tender view on female or female lesbian sexuality. You don't have this coming up so much, or I don't know. What I got all the time, for example, was, this is very simple, but I get a lot like, what does your mother think?
Oh God, that's a stupid question because that's not really going to change. I mean, okay, it could be that she actually changed her opinion. Do you want to know what my mama thinks?
No, I'm not.
My mama. No, I mean, that is just that question. I think it's often, and often you came from the photography, from more artistic, and are you bringing that into, which I think is pretty obvious because I think that my photography is not that different from the film.
Do you have the problem, for example, that people would think that you moved to a like lower or less worthy field of work, going from photography to pornography?
I haven't experienced that at all.
Mm-hmm.
But also because the photography that I did was already erotic. I was already going in that, corny, cheeky direction. So, no. On the contrary, I think I have many people who like my photography, who have followed me as a photographer, being super excited that I'm also doing porn now. Because it's often, they would watch my photography and already be interested in this kind of imagery and then also wanting to watch it on porn.
Changed is something different in the perspective between how people are perceiving your photo work and your film work. Like you said, people there's people feeling like provoked by photography at times. Did you have the same with your pornography, or is it like when it's porn already an audience which expects like these certain things, so they take it much?
Yeah, definitely. I have an experience. I think because the photography is more accessible, like it's also been in bookshops, or it's online and you get to see that, so it's obviously reaching a wider crowd, where some might be shocked when they see it. And porn is, I mean, what what you're gonna get if you go to the porn festival. You're gonna get pornography most likely, and also where my films have been shown have been always in a sexual context, like in different festivals where they then had a program where they showed sex. So no, I think the critique would probably be like, oh, that's boring, oh, I've seen it before, or that's not so nice. That would be more in that direction, but not being provoked.
What would you like people to know or realize when it comes to pornography or sexuality?
I basically want to contribute to an already growing amount of movies that show authentic sex, basically. Something that you can believe in, something you can identify with. And there was like this really important, interesting discussion at the Porn Festival this year with the lack of POC bodies in porn, and also the Porn Festival. And there's also been a critique every year, very important critique, that it is primarily white bodies that are being shown, and that is just such an important aspect, because it's easy for me to say as a white skinny person as well that I'm changing something, I'm showing real sex, I'm showing authentic bodies and stuff, but I'm still not doing a good enough job, because it's still a certain type that I am showing. And so I can say that I haven't reached my goal yet in this kind of educational process, or kind of reaching all kind of people.
So it's like about broadening representations, or like bringing in more.
Sorry?
Like showing broader, like.
Yeah, diversity. Totally. In bodies and skin colors and abilities and genders. I mean, my focus is on lesbian porn now, and trans women, cis women, but I sell it as lesbian porn, and that's my focus now, because it has been important for me to kind of contribute to that genre. That I also, as I said before, because it's been like this cliche and like lesbian porn, and everyone is like, oh god, that's terrible. And I want to try to produce a lot of movies and then be like, okay, I feel like I've done my job, and then I can move on to. I mean, not saying that I'm only going to be doing this for a few years and doing, but that has been like my main focus so far, and now I'm opening up to other kind of. Porn aspects than just shooting the lesbian.
Would you say that in the process of like shooting these films, you learned something about pornography?
Yes, I mean, I was my first reaction is like, I've learned a lot, but I can't tell you what I've learned. I just have this feeling that. Yeah, I mean, it's not that if you're a porn filmmaker then you know it all and you go out and educate others. Of course, I'm also continuously being educated by fellow porn filmmakers, or by the audience, by constant discussions about sex in the society, basically. So I definitely continue learning. From that and that's like from the aspect of what's it called? Content, like inhalt, but also from a more technical level. Of course, I also learn things and get ideas and get better, I hope.
And concerning sexuality?
Yeah, I mean, it's not that. Let's put it like this: I'm not easily shocked, or I'm not easily provoked in that sense. But there are definitely elements where I'm like, oh yes, this is something that I have not seen so far, or that I have lacked to see. For instance, this new documentary by Todd Vero, "Sex in the Silver Gates," where the focus is about men of a certain age, gay men of a certain age, they're meeting up once a month to have sex, or that they still have this obviously need, but it gets harder and harder the older you get, and you can't, you're not the most popular body in the gay sauna anymore. But that was an aspect that I didn't have any knowledge of. It's not that I'm shocked, oh my god, they still have sex when they're 70, but it was just the way it was portrayed, and it was something that I definitely wanted to know more about. So they're constantly coming. And now I'm just talking to the festival, referring to the festival, but also outside of the festival. Of course, there is a lot to learn. I think that's the whole idea about it. It's been for so many years. It's just been so one-sided. Always had like this is male sexuality, this is female sexuality, this is transsexual. Like it's just this is how it is. But then no, it's not just how it is. It's not as simple as that.
Where do you think lies the future concerning pornography? Where are we going?
That's virtual reality. We just realized that the other day. Virtual reality porn. Actually, I didn't see anything so far. I'm very excited about where that's gonna go. I like the idea of that, and yeah, I can imagine. I mean, that can become a more or less expensive hobby, if you want to have the good quality so far. But yeah, I think that's actually really interesting. I would like to try that. I have this tendency of when there's something I can also get bored, but mostly bored by my own work, or bored by myself. So when I've been doing this for a certain amount of years, I did actually think this year I was like, oh man, I don't want to do porn anymore. I'm already bored by it. I obviously still want to continue for at least a few years, but I want to try to change my view, or maybe I shouldn't do lesbian porn anymore. Maybe I should do something else, just to try something. And I think porn right now is so interesting, and it's becoming like feminist porn. It's becoming. I took part in a debate in Copenhagen as well. Like it's even it's left Berlin. It's reached so many other cities. Feminist porn. What does it all mean? How can you be feminist and then still be pro porn? And it's just everywhere right now. And at some point, it's not gonna be everywhere anymore. The trend will go away, and that makes me actually very curious. What's then gonna happen after that? Because right now it is very trendy. It is very in fashion in a way to do porn.
Do you think how pornography is perceived or understood will change in the future? Do you think like boundaries between pornography and the arts will blur even more, or do you think it already blurred?
It's already. I think it already blurred. There is already a lot of artists doing porn. I don't know if there are many pornographers doing art, but there are definitely, I guess as an artist, it's interesting to do porn because it has been something, it's so taboo, and many artists like to work with taboo subjects and then make it interesting. And this is also why I call it like a trend right now, because I don't know when that huge amount of artists are bored or thinking, and now we move on to a new field, what's then gonna happen? Is it then again the group of horny exhibitionists that we meet up and continue with our festival that suddenly now get really, really big? And then maybe it will get really small again when the porn geeks will meet, when the artists are gone.